Brought to you by concordiatheology.org, bringing you resources that support the vigorous life of the mind in service of the gospel of Christ.
Welcome to Lectionary Kickstart. We're sparking your thoughts for Sunday as you plan your sermon or teaching lesson. I'm your host and producer, Jessica Bordolo, here with Dr. David Schmidt and Dr. Peter Napsker. They're both professors of homiletics here at Concordia Seminary, St. Louis. You can hear all about us in our introductory episode, but trust me, they are pretty good preachers. David, where are we in the church year?
We are celebrating Trinity Sunday, the time when the church pauses and reflects on the teaching and the meaning of the Trinity for us.
And Peter, what are the texts this week?
The texts are taken from Proverbs chapter 8, Acts 2, John 8, and Psalm 8. I don't think I ever noticed that. So many eights. Proverbs 8, Psalm 8, John 8. How about that?
Three eights.
Three eights. There
Trinity.
You go.
There we go.
There you go.
I got my sermon.
As always, I ask each of you to tell me which text you would choose to preach about. To determine who goes first this week, so in Proverbs and in Psalms, we have descriptions of things that God made, the works of his hands, all of beautiful creation. What is the coolest thing you ever made with your hands?
That is hard.
Yeah.
Man.
I've never been really good at that kind of stuff.
I know. I painted a flower once.
Well, there you go.
A cosmo. You know, I just showed it to somebody and they knew it was a flower, which I think is okay.
That's all right.
And if our listeners want to see that painting, they can find it at Concordia Theology. No, I'm just kidding. I won't do that.
I can submit one, yeah.
Peter, what about you? What have you built?
I built a sandbox up in Minnesota, but it was in the shape of an octagon, I think, which was a terrible mistake because I can't work with tools to save my life. And the biggest mistake was that I did the last two pieces to come together right at the view from our patio. And so I had to cut the pieces at angles. When I did it, it didn't match up.
Right.
And so every time I looked at that sandbox,
saw.
I saw the wonky finish.
Oh,
I should have put the finishing touches at the other side that I couldn't see. Then at least I wouldn't be reminded of it.
I think the best thing that I've made was some drawings I did in my college art classes. I haven't touched charcoal or pastels since. So I guess we'll go with David because you were talking about paintings. You win. You get to go first.
Okay, great. As you know, I generally find Trinity Sunday hard to preach on, if that isn't a surprise.
You both always find all festival Sundays hard to preach on.
I know, because it's difficult. And you know, there's not texts that are explicitly intended to teach the Trinity.
It's because the Bible's not a dogmatic textbook.
I know. A systematician said that.
I know. I mean,
Wow.
our dogmatics are attempts to be biblical, not to replace the scriptures.
Right. Yeah. So it's always hard when you're working with text. So for me, I decided I would go with the Proverbs text, and I love the Proverbs text, but for me, I would need to let the congregation know that what we would be looking at would be the relationship between the Father and the Son in the Trinity, because I think that's what we hear most clearly in the Proverbs text. And so we've got this image of Christ being the wisdom of God, but it's kind of like, what does that mean?
Yes, what does that mean? Keep going, please.
Right. Well, no, that's what I would want to be thinking about, is what does it mean for Christ to be the wisdom of God? And I think for me, the three things that I would work with would be, first, that Christ as the wisdom of God he is public knowledge. He is knowledge that is meant to be publicized and shared in the world.
As opposed to like a secret wisdom.
As opposed to a secret knowledge. Mm-hmm. And so often I get sucked into these like videos on, do you want to have fuller hair? Do you want to have, and you start watching these things, right?
No,
and there's always,
don't.
Oh, you don't? I do.
No.
I watch these things. There's like this secret knowledge, and they're telling how to build muscle after you're 50. Like that's ever going to happen, right? And I'm like, okay, they've got the secret knowledge, and so you watch this video. It goes on and on. Just stay tuned, and we'll tell you.
And then you got to subscribe to something.
I know, and then you have to subscribe.
That's the secret knowledge.
That's the secret knowledge.
We just got your information.
Yeah, the secret knowledge is we just stole money from you, right? So there's So our world has all of these beautiful things, perfect skin, perfect body, perfect hair, all of these beautiful things that are associated with this secret knowledge that I am willing to share with you. In the opening of this text, Jessica, could you read verses 1 through 4 of Proverbs 8?
Does not wisdom call? Does not understanding raise her voice? On the heights beside the way, at the crossroads she takes her stand. Beside the gates in front of the town, at the entrance of the portal she cries out, "To you, O men, I call, and my cry is to the children of man."
I love that. Where is wisdom?
In front of the city,
Right.
where everyone can see.
She is where everyone can see and can hear. God does not have secret knowledge that he wants to prevent people from knowing. He wants the knowledge of salvation to be spread far and wide. And God will go anywhere to share that message of salvation. And wisdom is found at the gates. She's found at the front of the town. She's found at the crossroads in life. That it's not a matter of us having this secret knowledge. We're inviting people to, hey, come in, let me share this with you secretly. Don't share this with anyone else. This is just for us. The knowledge, Christ is the wisdom of God, is this public knowledge. God desires Christ as the wisdom of God to be shared throughout the world. I think that's the first thing that, to me, is interesting.
What I think is helpful about that is, sometimes we think what we need to share with the world is what the world is doing wrong or how it's messed up.
Yeah.
And of course, that's part of the bigger picture story that you have to be able to understand and articulate in a way that is clear. But the purpose of that is to proclaim Christ.
Right.
And so keeping Christ as the center of the wisdom of God and specifically the good news of Jesus, man, that's important.
Right. So the first thing would be that this is not Christ as God's wisdom is not secret knowledge, it's public knowledge, and he shares that knowledge through us reaching out to others with that message of salvation.
Because it was more hidden in the Old Testament before Christ came, right? Is that what you're saying? Then it was revealed in Christ, or why is it Christ specifically?
Why is it Christ? Because Christ is the wisdom of God, and the question is in this chapter of Proverbs that is celebrating the wisdom of God, what kind of wisdom are we seeing? Is it a hidden wisdom or is it a revealed wisdom? And it's really a public revealed wisdom. And actually, if you were to read at Proverbs 7, you've got the contrasting of the adulterous woman who's running around secretly saying, hey, come over here, right? Mm-hmm. So you've got kind of this adulterous, sinful knowledge that's kind of luring you into the dark places of the world. And wisdom is out there in the public places and the crossroads at the gate proclaiming this message. So then the second thing would be coming out of verse, I don't know, I'd say the first part of the next section. Jessica, if you could read verses, say, 23 through 26.
Ages ago I was set up, at the first, before the beginning of the earth. When there were no depths, I was brought forth. When there were no springs abounding with water. Before the mountains had been shaped, before the hills, I was brought forth. Before he had made the earth with its fields, or the first of the dust of the world.
This one is so interesting because it's talking about before the beginning. Genesis 1, in the beginning, right? And this one is before the beginning. So we're kind of being, it's like a prequel, right? So all of a sudden, before the world was created, wisdom is there with God. Christ is there with God, and we're seeing Christ as a companion with the Father in the midst of the creation of all things, which means that Christ was there in the very, very before the beginning. Before the beginning of our world, Christ was there, and he's a companion with God throughout the creation of all things. And
you mentioned the word prequel, and we kind of chuckled about it.
Yeah.
But I tell you, thinking about young people, I mean, every franchise right now has prequel after prequel after that concept of getting back behind the story.
Right.
I hear that's kind of where you're going with this idea that we're getting behind the story, and that's a rich time to proclaim certain things about Jesus that we don't always talk about.
Right.
Like you're saying.
Yeah. So Christ is this. Christ as wisdom is public knowledge, a gift from God to all of the world. But this gift from God of Christ was there with God before the creation itself. He was with the Father. And this means, I mean, for me, the quality of wisdom I have here, and this might be stretching a little bit, but for me, it's keen insight that the wisdom of Christ, he knows how things were created to be. He was there at all of the creation, and he has this keen insight into how to care for us, God's creatures, because he knows the way God has ordered the world. He was there, so he knows how to speak to us. He knows the word that will still our heart and build us up and communicate with us.
Well, there's so many examples of Jesus knowing people and knowing them even before they knew themselves, before they interacted with him. He told the Samaritan woman at the well, you know, everything about her. You know, he saw Nathanael sitting underneath the tree.
And then she says, let me introduce you to a man who told me everything I ever did.
Right.
Right.
So
She's
that
just
intimate
amazed.
knowledge. Yeah.
Right.
I
that
love
intimate
this.
knowledge.
This is so great. How comforting is that?
Yeah.
Yes, he knows me.
And then the last portion of it is that in addition to being keen insight, this wisdom is a delight. And if you could read verses 30 through 31.
Then I was beside him like a master workman, and I was daily his delight, rejoicing before him always, rejoicing in his inhabited world and delighting in the children of man.
I just love that description. It's another way of saying that God looked at his creation and said, it was good.
Yeah,
Right?
that's great.
That Jesus is the delight of the Father, that Jesus rejoices before the Father, Jesus rejoices in the world the Father made, Jesus delights in the children of the people who are in the world that God has made. Jesus just is delighting in everything. And so the Christ is the wisdom of God. It's public knowledge for the world. It's keen insight into who we are, and it leads into delight. Christ is the wisdom of God, is delighting in sharing the things of God with us and, in bringing us closer into the things of the Father so that we are part of that delight of God.
Oh, and that's where the promise of the gospel just can ring so full in that, in that respect. That's really nice.
Yeah.
That was great. Thanks, David. What about you, Peter?
Well, normally I'm with Dave, where Trinity Sunday is really hard to preach, and it is for the reasons we talked about it. But for some reason this time I looked at the text and I kind of got excited about it, not so that I could, because it would help me explain the Trinity. I think that's sometimes where...
That's where we get stuck.
That's where we get stuck. If you're trying to explain something that first of all is a mystery, and every analogy is going to fall short. And so the preview for the children's message, don't try to explain the Trinity. But so rather than explaining it, I think kind of like along the lines that you're talking about, David, kind of a meditation or reflection on who our God is. And you could go the more Christ-focused in his relationship with the Father through like the Proverbs 8. I was leaning toward Psalm 8, the Psalm as a way to reflect and meditate on the Trinity. Not to try to explain it, but just to reflect on it. Psalm 8, for me, first of all, is just one of my favorites. It's such a beautiful psalm of praise to God for his creation. I love that phrase in verse 2, out of the mouth of babies and infants, you've established strength. This idea that God works strength in these weak little ones, works strongly through them. There's all sorts of very familiar and comforting parts of this psalm. But the phrase that stood out to me as I was thinking about Trinity comes up in verses 3 and 4. So Jessica, would you read verses 3 and 4?
When I look at your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have set in place, what is man that you are mindful of him, and the son of man that you care for him?
That phrase, what is man, or that question really, what is man that you are mindful of him? The fact that it's stated as a question, one commentator talked about how a question is more spacious than a statement. A question invites you to come in and wonder and think and reflect. And so I would take that question as an invitation that I would extend to the congregation to think of, in light of the Trinity, what is man that you are mindful of him? What is it about the Trinity, or how is the Trinity mindful of human beings? So to do this, I'm going to basically ask that question of each of the three members of the Trinity. Okay. The Father,
like
the
that.
Son, and the Spirit.
That's really nice. That gives you time for each person of the Trinity, but the same question, right?
Yeah, the same question.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
It's good. It's a good way of meditating.
Well, it ties the sermon together with unity, with the question, but it allows you to look at it from these Trinitarian angles.
Right.
So that would be kind of the main goal. I've maybe said this before in the podcast, but I'm going to recommend that everyone listening does themselves a huge favor and get Tim Seleska's commentary on Psalms 1 to 50 from CPH. I just got out as I was preparing for this, and I just read through. It's only like 4 or 5 pages. Not only is it top shelf kind of exegesis and Hebrew language kind of stuff, it's off the charts. But it is such a reflective, meditative.
Oh, he is so
good.
permission granting for meditating.
It really is.
Yes.
And so some of the thoughts that I have here are kind of spurred on by some of the things he wrote that I don't apologize for at all because he's done such good work. But so the three kind of parts here that I would emphasize. I'll say this too. Seleska points out in this commentary that the Psalms leading up to this one, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, are all asking God for something, often in times of trouble. But you get to Psalm 8, this is kind of looking at Psalter big picture. Psalm 8 leaves the questions behind and just praises God for who he is. And as the psalmist praises God, he helps us learn things about God, about humanity, and about how they're related. And so that's kind of frames some of these thoughts. So first of all, the Father is mindful. What is man that you are mindful of him? Well, man is your creature. And of course, man here is humanity. God is mindful of that which he crafts, which he makes. Was that the question you asked us to start this time, Jessica, about something you made with your hands?
Yes,
Yeah, with your hands.
something that that you're proud of that you've made.
Yeah, I mean, when you make something that you're proud of, when you make something that you've put your heart into, that it's kind of got a special place in your heart. And so the Father, I would emphasize Father as creator here, but not creator in the sense that he's majestic and sovereign and other, but the creator who is intimately related to his creation, kind of the fatherly creator. And so this
picking up on he molded us with his hands in the creation, not just speaking the word, but actually touching and crafting us.
Yeah, he crafts us. He is kind of Psalm 139, of course, kind of comes in here. But you've got this the creator is mindful of his children, of his creatures. The Son is mindful of man. And mindful here is in a little bit different sense. I would emphasize the incarnation, that Jesus takes on the mind of humanity. He limits himself. He empties himself. He restrains himself to be like us, to be one of us. And so here I would emphasize the condescension of the Son. To join us, to walk among us, to empathize with us, to care for us. And you might even, I haven't kind of sorted out how this would go together, but he also has us in his mind. He's mindful. I think about the high priestly prayer when Jesus prays for those who will believe in him through the apostles' word. He has us on his mind. So he's not just mindful in terms of he can relate, but he also has us on his mind. So what is man? You are mindful of him from the Son's perspective. And then finally, the Spirit is mindful of man. And in this respect, I would think about how the Spirit fills our minds and our hearts, is poured into us. And so the Spirit is mindful of us in a way that's even more intimate in the sense that he's taken up residence in our hearts and in our minds. The 1 Corinthians 2 passage came to mind when Paul's talking about the things of the Spirit are spiritually discerned, and we have the mind of Christ, he says in 2 Corinthians 2, or 1 Corinthians 2, verse 16. And so the Spirit is not just a spirit that enables us to do things. The Spirit takes up residence in our hearts and our minds, and has that kind of intimate relationship with us. So I don't know exactly how I would put all those details together, but some sort of movement to just spend some moments meditating on the Father being mindful, the Son being mindful, the Spirit being mindful. And all of this would lead us to a life of praise that does what the psalmist does, that praises the Lord, how majestic is his name in all the earth. And then maybe I would encourage the hearers to then embody that praise in whatever little part of creation that God has placed them in. So the dominion, verse 6, you have given him dominion over the work of your hands. The little dominion that you have, and it may be really little.
Mm-hmm.
I think about a child's bedroom. That's all they have.
I like that.
And that's their little dominion, and that's why they resist it so fervently when we tell them to clean it.
Right. Yeah.
This is my place. I've got all my little pieces on the windowsill exactly the way I want them. This is my little dominion. And in a sense, I want to say, yeah, it is. It is. You've been given this little piece of creation.
Care for it.
To care for it.
Yeah.
And so the result of all this, I think, talk about a function statement, would maybe be that the hearers would care faithfully for the little bit of creation that God has put them in charge of.
All right, let's cut to the chase. Can you use an apple during a children's message? There's a 3-in-1 picture book with the parts of the apple that were used so many children's messages when I was younger, and I've seen others use them. What's the call?
Nope.
Nope. Don't use it. Okay.
That's sorry. That's the systematician coming out.
That's fine.
It's
that's fine.
I don't like the analogies of the Trinity because they always fall short in a way that I think trivialize the mystery. And so I want to proclaim the goodness and the work of the Trinity, not try to unpack how the members of the Trinity are related to each other.
How do you say that to a kid?
Well, I wouldn't even raise the question of trying to help them understand it. I'm talking about God the Father loves you so much that he's given his Son for you. And his Son, having died and risen and ascended, has given you his Spirit in your life to give you life and to lead you and to strengthen you. And the Son is coming back to bring you to be with the Father for all eternity. And so I would talk about the work of the Trinity in the hearers' lives rather than trying to help them understand the Trinity as if it's some sort of mathematical equation or something like that.
That's great because small kids don't understand abstract, right?
Well, big
They're
kids
still in
Yeah,
concrete.
big kids, adults
No,
don't
well, we
understand it either,
struggle to put it together, but their little brains can't even do it.
And here's the point: is you don't need to. I mean, the whole point of the doctrine of the Trinity in the 3rd and 4th century is to keep the church preaching the gospel faithfully according to the Scriptures. And when somebody started saying things that were not in the Scriptures, it didn't fit the Scriptures, you get all these Trinitarian heresies. And so let's get just straight to the promises and the biblical witness rather than trying to help people understand things perfectly.
I love it. And then in your high school Bible studies, you can say that same thing. Say, we can tell you what the Trinity does and what God says about himself, and we can rejoice in it, but we can't understand it. And it's okay if you don't. It's still true. That's huge, but I think that's important.
I agree.
That's all for today. We have free resources to guide your next step in planning at concordiatheology.org. Check it out. While you're there, you'll also find episodes of our other podcast, Tangible, Theology Learned and Lived. Twice a month, I host conversations with Concordia Seminary faculty. We talk about the ways in which their understanding of God and their faith is real in their everyday lives. Peter talked about the Psalms commentary written by Dr. Tim Seleska. We have 3 episodes of Tangibles. One, he talks about Lamentations, one about Ecclesiastes, and one about Job. Check them out. If you'd like to see the show continue, please subscribe for free, share, leave a review. I'm your host and producer, Jessica Bordolo. Join us next week here at Lectionary Kickstart when Dr. David Schmidt and Dr. Peter Nafsker will spark your thoughts for next Sunday.
You want to have fuller hair. How to build muscle after you're 50. Just stay tuned and we'll tell you.